In Android, there are three ways to store content. One way is the shared preference that we have used before. We can create a string, we can create an object into the disk and retrieve it later from the preference. The second option is to have a file, so we can create a file, write content on it, and leave the file on the disk, and we can read it later. And the third option, the option that we are going to use now, is to have a database. The language to use the database on Android is SQLite, which is an extension from SQL. And we are going to define a structure with table. This table we will have our fields, which will store the property of our object. So we are going to create a structure that allow us to store all the posts that we are downloading and retrieving them. In order to make the database work, the first thing that we need is a contract. With the database contract, we are going to specify which table do we have on your database, which field, and what is the name of the database. So we are going to start working on that. First, I'm going to create a package called database. I'm going to create a class called database contract. This class is going to have a structure of the database. Okay, the first field that we need is a database name. Okay, I'm going to create a variable which is always going to be defined here, and it's going to be called database name. And for example, in this case, it's going to be Reddit database. Okay, this could be any name, but I'm going to use this one because I always follow the same procedures in all my application. Okay, that is the database name. Now we need to create tables. At the moment we only need a table because we are just going to store a post with the link to the thumbnail, to the link to the post, and the title. Okay, so for that we are going to create a class. I'm going to create an abstract class. An abstract class means that cannot be implemented. You cannot create an object of this class. So that is just for security reason, to make sure that you don't try to create an object of this. We know that this class is just to define some property. Okay, and it's going to be called post table. Okay, and inside here we are going to have some more property. Table name. This is going to be post table, and a few more. I'm just going to copy this for the attributes. Okay. First we are going to have the title of the post, second the link, and first the image link. Okay. Okay, so this is basically the structure of our database. We are going to have one table with 3 columns. If you are new on Android and you're new on database, imagine this like a table on Excel. This is like a table with 3 columns, and every column will have title, link, and image link. So every element that we insert on this table will be a row. So if we insert 10 elements, we will have 10 rows, and every one will have these 3 fields filled. Okay. Now that we have our database contract, we need a database open helper. This is an object that is going to open the database. It's going to create the database in our application. This is called database open helper, or just to simplify, DB open helper. Okay. So this database open helper is going to extend the class SQLite open helper. Okay, this is going to ask us to implement some methods. Basically, we have two methods here, and we also need a constructor of the class. So we can create the constructor here, generate constructor. Okay, perfect. So there are two important methods, onCreate and onUpgrade. onCreate is going to be called when we create the database on the system for the first time. And onUpgrade is going to be called if we want to upgrade this database. When are we going to upgrade? Imagine that you have an application which has one table, so your application is very successful, you want to create an update, and you need more tables on it. For the users that has the first version of your application, in order to update the database when they download a new version for the Play Store, you need this method. And this method is going to make the change that you need to make in your database. Okay, we are not going to go into onUpgrade for now. We are just going to go to onCreate. Basically, we only have at the moment one field, that is going to be text field. But I want to show how this is made. So one thing that we need first is declare like the types that we are going to use in our application. For example, we are in SQLite. For example, at the moment, we are going to have the text type and the integer type. We are not going to use the integer one, but this is just an example of the next step, which is define the types that we are going to use and define a database version. Okay, we are going to start for the first one because we are just going to do one version of the database at the moment. We are not going to upgrade it, like I said before. Okay, now what we need to do is create the table sentence. Create table sentence and drop table sentence. Once onCreate is called, we will have to create our table. So for that, we need a sentence to create the table. This is a SQL sentence. So if you have some knowledge about database, this is how you create a table on SQL. This is just the same thing. So we just start the sentence called create table, one space. The name of the table will be here. So the next string is going to be our database contract, table name, post table, table name, plus now we need to include the fields here. Every field with its type. So let's start with title, which is type text, comma. I'm even going to create the comma here to make everything more clear. Okay, so I'm just going to change this for comma, and I can copy now all the sentences. This is title, link, and image link. All of them are type text. Okay, and the last one doesn't need comma. The last one just only needs to close the parentheses. Fine. Okay. So the reason to have all of this in variable is because if you are writing this sentence manually, just with all the string in here, it's very easy to have a mistake. This way, you have the type text, the type integer, everything on the same place, so it's not very likely that you will make a mistake that way. Also, if your database format is going to change, you're going to add fields, it's very easy to modify this structure. If another developer look at this, is going to understand this straight away. This is just a best practice of how to do it. We are going even to have comments here. This is table strings, and this is table version. Database version, sorry. Okay, we have a sentence to create a table. So now the onCreate in our application, what is going to happen to do is create the database. And in this case, for us to create the database, is just to create the table. So we have one parameter here, which is the database. And to that database, we are going to tell him execute this SQL. Again, having the string in here prevents a lot of mistakes. Okay. Now I'm going to create my own constructor of database OpenHelper. I'm going to remove this constructor, and I'm going to create my own only with the context. So now I'm going to call the parent constructor with the context, the database name, and the database version. And we don't need any cursor factory at the moment. So just database contract database name. We don't need any cursor factory, and the version is going to be in the variable database version. Okay. So basically this is it. This is going to create a database and a table. A database with our name and with our version and with our table. If we want to go further, if we want to prepare this for updates, imagine that when you update your application, you want to drop the data that you have before, and you have to create the table again. So for that we will create another sentence. Drop post table, which is going to be an SQL sentence. Drop table is exists plus the database plus the table name. Okay. Now, if our upgrade is called, if we are upgrading our database, what do we want to do? We want to drop everything that we have and create a new table again. So just execute drop table and create our database again. Okay, let's comment this. And this is our database OpenHelper. This is basically going to create a database. This is going to update it, and everything is with comments, everything is with string types, preventing mistake. This is like a professional database OpenHelper has to be created. Okay, in the next lesson we are going to see how to insert data and how to retrieve data from the database.